Hello, everybody. I would like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Allison, could we please have a roll call?
Yes. Trustee Donnersberger. Here. Trustee Eck.
Here.
Trustee Farrell-Mayer.
Here.
Trustee Kennedy.
Present.
Trustee Metz.
Here.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Here.
And Mayor Hinshaw.
Here.
Thank you.
We could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a meeting. Again, we have agendas up here and a sign-in sheet, and a reminder that we are broadcasting this video out to Facebook Live, YouTube, and we will have this recording on the website after a few days. All right, the first item on the agenda is the mayor's report, and Wolf Road is the first update. On the screen, or soon to be on the screen, there you go. You'll see a diagram that was used in the June 7th Village Board meeting at the Highland School. And please try to ignore the mistakes, the typos, the date. It's not 2033, and variation. So please try to ignore that. But on that diagram, you'll see that that is the existing Wolf Road as it is today. And from edge of the ditch to the edge of the ditch is 60 feet. And I apologize again if that's a little fuzzy to read, but again, that was in a presentation back from June 7th, and I have emailed that out to the board a few minutes ago in case they had questions. The next slide is the alternative 3-lane or alternative 2, and it is 61 feet from edge of the sidewalk to the edge of the shared use path. Now, of course, this does not take into account the extra room needed for the construction on both sides as they do that, and any potential damage to roots below the surface. But I wanted to show this information again because it has been a source of many questions since it was presented back in June. So again, the difference today, and of course it's not all the way down because there's a middle lane in some parts, but for most of the current road it's 60 feet. And again, in the future, if we went with alternative 2, that would be 61 feet. An update on the Corridor Advisory Committee, the CAC, is that before the CAC can be established to have meetings and gather more community input, the Public Involvement Plan, or the PIP, must be approved by the village and county boards. Our village engineering firm Strand is still working to get a general amendment to the Intergovernmental Agreement, the IGA, prepared, which will include the new addition for the work of the Public Involvement Sub-Consultant. Once the general agreement is ready, it will be sent to the village and county boards so that both boards can review and approve. After the county approval of the general amendment to the IGA, we would begin preparing the PIP and coordinating with the Illinois Department of Transportation, or IDOT. After the PIP has been approved by IDOT, the plan today is that we will hold the first CAC meeting in early 2023. The public meeting comment responses are still being reviewed by the county. We will be responding to everyone with the newsletter and a few letters all at the same time. The process is that we will wait until all the comments, responses, petitions, etc. have been submitted to IDOT in the draft project development report before making the comments public. The county and the village have stated that they intend to include the participation of a representative of the Wolf Road Advocacy Group as part of the CAC. On to sidewalks. Again, we have 4 main areas. Plainfield and Wolf Road, both are county roads and both are in a phase 1 study. and the county has stated that they will not be pursuing a 5-lane alternative for Plainfield Road. Acacia Drive, the northern half of the Acacia Drive sidewalk is 99% complete or almost complete. I looked, I saw a couple little things. In Joliet Road, we're waiting on state approval to begin the phase 1 of a sidewalk along Joliet Road. Acacia Drive update, the final paving should be completed in a week or two. Reminder that landscaping will be done in October. And again, this board is committed to making sure Acacia Drive looks good when completed. Tollway update, the Joliet Road northbound ramp will be closed through September 21st for bridge work. Noise walls along the tollway remain on schedule for completion by the end of this year. Later in the meeting, you will hear a Public Works update, but one highlight is at the end of the August Public Works meeting, Thomas Brennan, an intern and resident of the village, gave a wonderful presentation about a tree inventory project that he has been working on this summer. Part of that presentation, Thomas suggested that we look to form a tree and landscape committee for the public right-of-way trees and landscaping. I have asked Sean Kennedy to look to form a tree and landscape committee to come back to the board for approval. And it sounds like Brenda would like to participate in this new committee. And lastly, there has been a delay in our receipt of Cook County property tax revenue. Because of the delay, the county offered a bridge loan to those villages who needed assistance. We did not apply for the bridge loan, mostly due to the hard work of the Finance Committee, staff, and board in getting our finances in a solid position. So that is it for the mayor's report. We're on to the next item, which is public comments. If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium. And of course, there's another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Amy?
Amy Eckert, Cascade Drive. The slides that you just showed on the road, is it possible to post those on the website?
I believe they are from in the Wolf Road section. Again, they were presented at the June 7th meeting.
Okay, so they're there already? Would somebody check and make sure they are? Thank you.
Anybody else?
Sandy Hayes, Cochise Drive. Could you please explain to me again where on Joliet Road the sidewalks are going to be going in?
Well, that project hasn't started yet.
I know.
But we, the village has between Wolf Road and Willow Springs Road, the southern section, the northern. We have the church, which is a little bit on the south, but so we are more interested in the northern half, but I believe Countryside and Hodgkins may be involved to get a sidewalk from Wolf all the way to First Avenue, potentially a bike path as well. But again, that project has not started, and a few years ago, the village was fortunate enough to get $4 million in the state budget for a sidewalk between Wolf and Willow Springs, but of course that hasn't happened yet. We're still waiting on the state.
Okay, I just wanted clarification because I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle?
Hi, Danielle Shveska, 11235 Hiawatha. I have a statement that I was asked to read by some of our neighbors who are unable to be present tonight. So thank you for indulging me in the reading of this. This is from Karen and Ed at 6631 Cochise Drive. We have been in contact with the police and with John DeRocher, but wanted to be sure we alerted the board and residents about incidents that are occurring in front of our home because we are concerned. On August 17th, Ed was sitting in our home, and all of a sudden he heard a loud boom and crash and ran to the front to see what happened. He witnessed a semi-truck barreling towards Wolf, having taken the curve at Tecumseh. He saw that it had rounded the corner, hit the light pole, and damaged a tree, and there were skid marks, and the truck kept going. Ed tried to run after him to see if the truck had any markings on it, but he was barefooted and the truck was moving too fast. Ed then called the police, who came out to look at the incident, and the next day there was caution tape on the light pole and 3 barricades near it on the corner, and they remain there to this day. This is the second time I am aware of that a 65-foot semi-truck coming through this corner, and they should not be. The other incident I witnessed was I heard and saw a semi-truck going back and forth on the road in front of our home and in our yard, trying to figure out how to take the corner, and in doing so damaged our grass. I finally ran out and told him to back up and go down Blackhawk to get out of the neighborhood, which he did. As an FYI, there were no markings that I recall on this particular truck. On Sunday, September 4th, I took pictures and sent them to John to show that someone had run over 2 of the 3 barricades while we were away over the weekend, which means to me there was perhaps another truck trying to take this turn. On September 6th, I had just gotten to the airport at about 5:30 a.m., and Ed called to say that another truck had come barreling through this morning. He heard a crash and looked out to see the last barricade was down and a white 65-foot truck, semi-truck, pulling onto Wolf. He said the truck said extra on the side. As a note, we got home tonight and saw that all 3 barricades are back up. We are assuming this is because the Indian Head Park Public Works put them up again. Although I am not sure what good they are doing, and it is not causing trucks to slow down. There is an increase in semi-truck traffic through the neighborhood and around this corner, and we are concerned. We do not want to find a semi-truck in our yard or home or have someone who is walking in this morning or evening get hit. I would like to know if this is due to construction at 294, since I am unsure why else a semi-truck is in our neighborhood at 5 a.m. John indicated it will be investigated, but we would like to further understand what this means, and thank you all for your attention. And they wanted me to bring this up not as a matter of their concern, but also as public safety. And since we've talked about trucks extensively with the potential expansion of Wolf Road, just to highlight this as a potential issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh. Wouldn't our license plate reader get those plate numbers?
I don't believe we have one. The one that I know we're waiting on one to be installed on Joliet. Yeah, so I don't know about that location, right? I think when we have them, a few years in the future, when we talked about having 16 or whatever, yes. Anybody else? Again, there is another opportunity.
Yeah, Tom, if I could just to Amy, to let you know, it is on the website under Wolf Road. The whole presentation from that night is there, so it's definitely there. Yep.
Thank you for that quick answer.
As a follow-up to the comments that were just read, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly which street it was. I know it was going into Western Springs, but there was a sign that said no truck through traffic allowed. And I'm wondering how they can get away with that and we don't have something like that. You're smiling, John.
You got to turn on.
Andy, please correct me if I'm wrong. To the best of my knowledge. So I preface it with, to the best of my knowledge. Western Springs just put that sign up. So, and I don't think that they actually enforce it.
I can't hear you.
I said, to the best of my knowledge. So preface it with that. Western Springs just put that sign up, and it's just part of the landscape now. They don't have any, they don't enforce it though, is what I've been told. So I understand your point, and
Trucks are allowed.
as far as I know, yes, because it's a county road. Western Springs wouldn't have jurisdiction over it.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as established.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean and Rita. Any questions? Chris, could you read the financials, please?
Sure. For the month ending August 2022, cash on hand as of the end of July was $3.3 million. Total for all warrants in August was $371,000. Total revenues $139,806, and our ending bank balance as of August 31st, just a little over $3 million.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? I don't hear of any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Thank you. May I ask, I think that it was Trustee Farrell Mayer who did the second.
Correct.
Yes, thank
that's
you.
right.
All right, I need to correct that.
So that has been approved. Thank you. All right, next item, would somebody like to make a motion on the payables?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the payables for the period ending August 31st, 2022, in the amount of $371,077.11.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Chris and Brenda. John, do you have a highlight of the main items?
The unusual items or higher than normal items are $50,000 to the City of Countryside for our water. Strand, our engineer, had invoices totaling about $45,000. $15,000 of that was for the Wolf Road work, but that is reimbursable by the county. $11,000 of that number is for the pump station and $6,000 for related capital work. For Thomas Engineers, their bill was about $20,000. $16,000 of that was for the road program, and that's being covered under a grant from the state, reimbursement also. And we also paid Galls, which is a equipment supplier, almost $7,000 for ballistic vests. We no longer call them bulletproof vests. They're a ballistic vest, and half of that is reimbursable through the Department of Justice. Those are the highlights for the bills, Your Honor.
Thank you. John, any questions or comments from the board? I don't see or hear. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
And Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Thank you.
That's been approved. Thank you. I think we're on to ordinance 2022-25, special use for shed 6588 Shabona Road.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-25, granting a special use for a shed at 6588 Shabona Road.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rita and Charlie. Andy, is this you to give us an overview?
Yeah, I'll start it off. One sec. Yes, so this is one of the shed petitions. This obviously at Shabona, and the petitioner, Mr. Steve Ziemba, he gathered the signatures from his adjacent neighbors, stating that they do not object to the shed. The shed is structurally sound, however, he's waiting on approval or not approval for whether or not to upgrade the aesthetics. And this was the shed that it was a 2-2 vote on the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the time, the two in favor felt that it met all the criteria of the shed ordinance, and that he was able to present a hardship to be granted. I think the other two kind of felt that the garage was too big. Now, since then, we did follow up, and we found out that the garage size is actually not a 2.5 car garage, which was the original assumption. I think he was just mistaken when he said that, because the garage is 18 by 22. So maybe that vote would have gone differently. I don't know. I won't speak for the commission. But either way, staff is recommending approval. The commission, because it's a 2-2 vote and it's a tie, that technically is not a recommendation of approval. And I can take any questions.
So, Andy, can I assume that by the 18 by 22 is smaller than a 2.5 car garage?
Yes, yes. So a large 2-car garage is 24 by 24. That was kind of over the year and a half that we've looked at this, it was in January of, I think, last year. I think I have a memo in there for you guys about it. But when staff looked at it, we did research on what size garage gives you room for storage in addition to your cars. And what we found was that a 20 by 20 garage is small enough where you're not going to be able to fit something in there other than cars for the most part. A 24 by 24 garage, on the other hand, you can. And so that's kind of what staff was going on for recommending for the hardship criterion of the shed special use ordinance. And so in this situation, he's got an 18 by 22, which is obviously less than 24 by 24, so we recommended approval.
Andy, I think in the board packet you have the garage small and a large on page 43 and
Yes.
44.
So
Yes.
if I can comment, there were, I believe, five requests for sheds this month. Of those 5, 2 for existing and 3 for new sheds.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I just wonder, and it just feels to me like we need to take a look at the ordinance more closely and have some kind of objective criteria if we're going to be approving sheds, because the intent of the people who came before us was this open land, no sheds, no fences, etc. And the first thing I read is special uses are not granted for the mere convenience of a property owner. So how do we define that? You know, I ran out of space. Well, some people might run out of space because I don't know why. You know, I mean, we all have to live within our means. I think we all have to live within the homes that we decided to buy. Maybe we decide that if you have a sit-down lawnmower, yes, you can get a shed. I don't know, but I'd like to see some more objective criteria developed, maybe by the Shed and Fence Committee or whomever does that, before we go ahead willy-nilly approving sheds. We're going to have sheds all over, and I don't think that was the intent. The second point is that when it says that they have to be covered on 3 sides by shrubbery, well, some of them are and some aren't not. When I look at the pictures of the existing sheds, there's trees. Well, trees have long trunks, so that's not covering anything. The foliage is at the top. So I think that has to be better defined. So before I feel comfortable approving anything, I really need more criteria set forward.
I would say really quick on the screening part, the ones that are petitioning, they are not screened as of yet. Like kind of like with the Bartlett homes, all of those homes that were granted approval, we did screening inspections follow up that they did screen them, and they have to be screened at least 75% of the height. Obviously not immediately, it has to grow, but so that with the screening thing, I think that's okay.
I would just know, we've already approved a lot of sheds in the ordinances to date. And one of the things was the Bartlett subdivision, because of the uniqueness of those lots and the fact that they're all on slabs and they don't have basements to store things in. So I think at this point, we've already acted as a board to approve these things. We can go back and look at the ordinance any time, but right now, I think we've already taken action on many of these petitions and approved them.
I agree with that. I also agree that most of the homes in the Bartlett, if not all, they're all built on slabs, so they don't have basements. And that was one of the controlling features, criteria, if you will. And I noticed one in here is half slab, half basement. So maybe that would be something we would consider. But I'm just struggling with this because...
Yeah, I'm not struggling. I'm not in favor of the sheds. I understand for the Bartlett subdivision with the one-car garages and the slabs. That's different from all these others that we're looking at. And I don't want to see sheds because somebody has too much stuff. Like you said, we need to learn to live within the constraints of what we have. And a 2-car garage isn't out of the ordinary in our town. 1-car garages are. 1-car garages with a slab, those are out of the ordinary. 2-car garages are not. And I think residents have to make a decision. Do they want to put their car in the garage, or do they want to put a bunch of tools and toys and things of that sort? So No, I'm completely against okaying the sheds.
Other comments?
Yeah. Trustee Eck just made a good suggestion. Perhaps this should go back to PZC so that they have the correct information about the size of the garage, to have them revisit this and maybe make a different decision based on the facts.
That would be appropriate, I think. Yeah.
Is that what the board wants to do? I mean, right now we have a motion, right, Pat?
Right now there's a motion to approve, so that would require a substitute motion to refer it back.
And is that a motion that I can make at
It
this
is.
time? Okay, I'd make that motion to refer back.
And I second it. Are we going to have a little bit of discussion?
Yeah, discussion on that? That's okay, right, Pat?
So
Yes.
I think the one that we're talking about now, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that's half slab, half basement. Is that right? One of them is.
Gotta look.
Yeah, I
One of-
think
one
we're
of them
looking
is.
at it, at all of them as a
Okay.
whole.
But I'd like for you to take that into, like for us to take that into consideration as we move forward.
Eileen, I guess I don't know if this is fair, but I'll try. I attended a lot of the shed and fence, and I've been to a lot of planning and zoning. And I think, like you said, what is the need in a garage, right? And if they have a two-car garage, I've heard people say they have a lawnmower and a jet ski, and they have an old car that they have tarped, and so they don't have room for their everyday car. Some people have stuff, tools, as Chris said, the toys. So I've heard a lot of things why people need it, and I think that my interpretation of the group, the shed and fence and planning and zoning, is how do you say one man's toy, doesn't belong in a shed or, whatever. And I think that's the hard part about your comment, to define it better, at least how I see it.
It is hard, yeah.
I'd say one other thing that's kind of difficult is with the question of slabs and whether or not someone has a basement. When staff was kind of thinking this over and reviewing, trying to come up with some kind of advice for the commission to go off of, the thing is, a lot of the materials or equipment that people are storing in sheds just wouldn't be in a basement either way. I mean, no one's going to take a lawnmower downstairs or keep pesticides or any of that in their basement.
I won't
So-
disagree with that, Andy,
Yeah.
but other things that they might be storing in their garage because they can't store in a basement is taking up room against their
Sure,
lawnmowers
sure,
and other
sure.
things. So yeah, I don't think anybody's storing a lawnmower in their basement, but their Christmas decorations, their, whatever is taking up room in the garage. I understand what Trustee Downsberger is saying. I think I'm coming at this as if you have a one-car garage and a slab, I can clearly see a use for it. And again, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, almost all of those Bartlett homes have had sheds, in some cases for decades.
Yes.
So
Like 28 or 35, Sean.
that is kind of a pre-existing condition that we hopefully solved. Somebody that lives in my neighborhood or Old Town that is falling under the 2.5, two-car garage, 1822 or 2424 size garage, that's a little bit harder to say yes or no to, as to, is it because they don't have enough room? Well, I've got a large garage and I have 3 cars outside because I've got too much stuff and I deal with it. So it's my problem, and I'm not even thinking of putting up a shed in my backyard because I don't want them in my neighborhood. And I think most residents have come back to us with that same feeling or thought.
Not appropriate now. Thank you.
So if we keep kind of tabling this or kicking the can down the road, it feels like we're just revisiting the same things over. I'm kind of with Chris on this. Unless there is just a clear need for it, I'm no also. So
Any other comments? So we have,
Well, in this case, it was a divided vote based on apparently inaccurate information. And so sending it back to planning and zoning allows them to look at the request based on accurate information. There may be some additional comments on some of the four others that are coming up, but on this one, the recommendation is to send it back to planning and zoning.
I understand, but it's not going to change the size of the garage right now or the shed or any of the things that is in front of us right now, is my point.
Is it going to change anybody's mind what the zoning board decides? I don't think it's going to change my mind.
Well,
If they look
you're
at it
not on
again.
planning and zoning, but anything they present has to come back to the Board of Trustees, that's for sure.
I'd like to ask a question. We did pass an ordinance last June 21st, June 2021, ordinance number 2021-09, which says that the village acknowledges there may be certain conditions where a shed may continue to exist and in which special uses may be granted. So to me, that language seems to address sheds that existed before, but doesn't necessarily allow for new sheds to be built. Yeah, but I think planning and zoning has taken the idea that this does apply to new sheds. So I think we have to give them direction, if that's the position of the board, that those would not be considered.
And that's an interesting question. That's been going through my mind. How many existing sheds do we have? When were they put up and why? And do we grandfather them in or not?
Well, we've done it for, it says on here, the entire Bartlett subdivision. I haven't counted them, but there's quite a few that we've allowed.
Okay. Excluding Bartlett, how many do we have? Do we know?
I don't know.
No sheds have been approved yet, excluding Bartlett. As far as existing, I think that we are going to have a total of 3. The 2 before you, and then 1 more.
Say that again, Andy. Did you say 3?
For non-Bartlett homes existing, I think you're going to have 3. The two are on the agenda tonight.
Yeah.
And then 1 will be on the agenda probably next month.
is that counting 6588 as existing?
Yes.
Because that's 2 years old or
and
something.
they vary, and like that one's been here only a couple of years. I think
Short time.
another one that we have tonight's been here a decade at least. And then the other one I think's been here about 7 years.
But we haven't approved anything outside of Bartlett subdivision.
No, not yet. No, nothing.
Well, again, we have the motion to go back to planning and zoning. Any other comments before we vote on that?
Yeah, just one more comment, and Rita, please chime in and tell me if you remember this incorrectly, but I believe this all started with a letter that the village sent out to every shed owner that they had to be taken down within a certain time frame.
Correct.
And we got a lot of bad feedback from that, mostly from Bartlett. That's why we formed the committee to see, okay, is that a special use variance that we could do for them? But outside of that, the gist was still, for the rest of the community, we weren't looking to be adding sheds as much as they were there. So it was not to force them to take down because they came back to us with a valid reason as to why they would need them. So that's why it all started, and that's why we're here 3 years later.
Right. That's my recollection.
If I can add to when it started, I believe it started with a group of citizens that wanted a fence. They circulated a petition. We had a survey, and then somebody on that group said, if I can't have a fence, what about these fences? And then that morphed into sheds and fences. So just to edit a little bit of what you said.
Right, okay.
When you said it all
What were the
started.
results of that survey, Mayor?
I believe it was
Against.
majority against, like 60 or 66%, 2/3 to 1/3, roughly.
Against fences or sheds?
I believe it was just fences.
Just fences, okay.
And I think and this was, the village didn't do it, the residents did it. I think they went door to door. I believe. Anybody? I think that's what it was, so.
Well, in these cases, even though these aren't Robert Bartlett, the neighbors have been asked to sign off on that as well. So in addition to the homeowner making the request, the neighbors adjacent to the property have had an opportunity to acknowledge that that shed is not going to disturb their circumstances. And so even if sheds generally may not be something that some of the board members don't want, the neighbors to these particular petitioners have indicated that they don't have a problem with that. So they're asked to sign off on that, and I think that's a pretty strong statement.
Well, can I respectfully disagree with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's pretty hard for a neighbor to go to a neighbor and,
Yes.
and a neighbor say no. I suggest that if we are going to do something like that, we should have somebody from the village go and ask, and then not reveal who said no. But, yeah.
That's an excellent point, and I agree with what you're saying. If my neighbor came to me and said that they were looking to do that, it would be difficult to say no to them to their face. So I think you're going to get a lot of people signing yes off on it because they don't want to be a bad neighbor.
But you would tell them no, right?
Yes, as I did last time, Chris, you can't have one. But no, I think that's an excellent point, is to have the village reach out to those people in those cases, and maybe you get a truer answer.
Mm-hmm.
Before committing to that, can we talk about that, John and I, to see what extra level of effort that is?
Well, we're not even sure we're going to go that way.
Right, if we want to
Yeah.
do that, yeah.
I just wanted to say one. I think, Danielle's here, and she's a member of Planning and Zoning. I'd like to hear from her, whatever her comment was, because they've been hearing these for months and months and months.
Okay, Danielle?
So,
Thank you so much. Specifically for the shed on Shabona, which is, I think, the first one that you have on your agenda. And I'm not sure who was at that meeting. I don't know if, Tom, you were. I'm not sure. But the gentleman very specifically said he came to the village, asked for a permit. Several days later, the village called and said, you cannot have a permit because sheds are not allowed. And he said, standing here at this podium, I was like, well, my wife already got it, so I went ahead and put it up. I don't think that's an action that we care to perpetuate, because if we allow this person to take that action, you're also opening the door to allow other people to do that, which I think is the reason two of us, specifically in this instance, said no. Several of these other sheds that we have debated quite heavily in planning and zoning, that we finally came to an agreement to say that we would send to you as a recommendation to approve, were structures that had been there many, many years. And we talked extensively to the petitioners. Most of them did have garages that were considered at the time when we initially had the recommendations to be small for their purposes. I completely agree that my personal stance on this is that we should not perpetuate adding additional structures. We've had this most recently at our meeting on Tuesday, that we're now debating another yard that has not only a shed in it, but they have put up a cabana alongside their pool. So now they have two sheds, essentially. But I just wanted to give you some clarity specifically on this case, because it just struck me, very, very clearly that this gentleman said, well, I know we had a regulation, and I decided to do it anyway.
Danielle, I remember him also saying that he would take the shed down or something to that effect.
Well, he
if
said that with a lot of emotional anger behind it at the time, I think. So I think he was saying that as a,
I think he said it
statement
doesn't
of
matter either way,
distress.
but when things were going against him, he kind of changed his tune. If I
Yes.
remember right.
Yes, and he did come to our last board meeting, and I think he expressed similar frustration. But, I don't think that we need to continue to perpetuate people doing things that they know are not appropriate to our code. That's how we got into some of the issues we have with some of the fences we're trying to sort out now as well. So,
Thank you.
So,
Welcome.
if we are going to enforce the no shed and consider grandfathering, I'd like to know of those sheds that we're considering grandfathering and how long they've been up, et cetera. And the other thing is there any penalty attached if somebody puts up a illegal shed? Does anybody know?
Well, right now, if someone, in the last couple of years, if someone, we've not had somebody that, to our knowledge, put up a shed while we've been going through the process. If someone were to put up a shed today, which actually, I'm wrong actually, about a month ago somebody did put up a shed, and we reached out to them and said, hey, you either got to take it down or you got to go through the petition process. They're going to go through the petition process. And so that'll eventually come to you as a new shed, even though it's a month old, technically existing. But eventually, eventually, if the board's direction is to have these sheds removed, then if they don't remove it, we can issue a citation. Is that
Okay.
So the citation is the remedy if somebody does something like put up a shed illegally, is that correct?
yeah?
Okay, so again, we have the motion to send it back to planning and zoning. Any other questions or comments? Pat, is this a roll call?
Probably should be.
Clerk Allison, could we have a motion? Pat, how would you describe the change?
It's a substitute motion to refer it back to the planning and zoning.
Thank you. If we could have a roll call vote on that, please.
Yes. Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
No.
okay, and Trustee Metz,
No.
and Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Passes.
So that passes to send it back to planning and zoning. Right? So we're moving on to the next one.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-26, granting a special use for a shed at 6616 Osceola.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rita and Charlie. Andy?
Yeah, I'll introduce it, and I believe the homeowner is here as well to answer any questions. So this was the one that's been existing for, I think, at least 10 years, something like that. And this shed, the garage is 19 by 19, so it's small enough under the criteria that we had originally talked about, the garage criteria. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to recommend its approval, and the homeowner got signatures from all of their neighbors. And with that, I can answer questions, or if the homeowner would like to come up and say a few words, you're welcome to do that.
Thank you, Andy. Anybody have questions or comments?
Yeah, a couple, and either Andy or the homeowner. So replacing the existing because it's dilapidated, you need a bigger one? What?
It's not to replace it.
Oh, it's just that they have one.
Yeah, they have
and
one.
they're asking for the
They've had it
variance.
for a while.
Okay,
yeah.
so that answers that question.
And the size of that is 19 by 19?
No, that was the
That's the
garage.
garage.
Oh, that is the typo. My bad. That's the garage. Yeah.
And then all other criteria for the ordinance, the screening on 3 sides, 75% of the
It's at the very.
side, all that is met, I'm assuming?
It is met, or it will have to be met. I think this one might need a little more screening.
So we back up to Joliet Road. So we have a fence,
Yep.
so that's one side. And then we have abrevieties along the whole back of the fence. Right next to the shed are just a couple of shorter ones. I mean, they're still abrevieties, they're just shorter. So if you want me to put up bigger ones, I'm gonna have to take those out and just put up 2 bigger ones. And then we started like planting in front of the abrevieties, like annuals or perennials and some annuals that.
One more question. Was it there when you moved in? Or
No.
So you put it in some 10 years ago
Yes,
yourself?
our house is a raised ranch, and the lower level is completely finished, and we don't have a basement.
Right.
Like many others might have basements to keep all their things. And as far as like collecting stuff, this is just my opinion, but 63 years ago, when Indian Head Park was incorporated, and you have your park-like setting, people didn't most people didn't even have 2 cars. Most families had 1 car. And I didn't even grow up with a garage. But I just think that, like you were saying, the Bartlett area it has its I want to say, like, it's mostly slabs, right? But not everything in Old Town is the same as the rest of the village either. I mean, there's some older homes, like ours was built in 1970. It doesn't have some of the extra things that some of the newer homes have. And our garage isn't that big. You start putting, 2 cars in, and your garbage cans, our garbage cans are huge now. They can barely open the doors with 2 cars in there. So that's just, ours is just, we don't have a lot of room for our stuff. And yes, I guess I couldn't get rid of my stuff. We can all get rid of stuff, but that's just, I want to bring that up. But ours is always finished, and we don't have a true basement.
Understood. Thank you.
So I'm wondering, I'm feeling that maybe I'm wondering if I can make a motion or suggestion or something that we not vote on these ordinances now, that they be referred back to committee, and that you give us more information on those that are existing, as this one has been here for 10 years. And that's what I'd like, because new ones, I'm with these guys, I'm not in favor of new ones, but the existing ones I'd like to know more about.
Andy, do we have that information on the existing sheds on the agenda tonight? Bless you.
Well, I mean, what information?
The age of the shed, or?
You just said 10.
Well, like this one we know. It's
This one we know, but the other ones.
All the rest of the ones on the agenda tonight are new ones.
Okay.
Or very
Does that help
recently.
for now?
Yeah.
Okay, so other questions or comments about this? I don't see any, so Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote? Please.
Trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
Trustee Mitz,
No.
okay, and Trustee Lowe-Loughlin.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's been approved. Next one, Rita, you're on a roll.
Okay. I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-28, granting a special use for a shed at 6534 Cochise.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rita and Charlie. Andy?
Yeah, this is a similar one. This one, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to recommend. This one is, I'm looking for the specifics right now. My packet got out of order here. There we go. So this petitioner's garage is 22 by 22. And commission voted 4-0. And that's about it. The homeowner agrees to do the screening, and the homeowner, their neighbors signed that they do not object to the placement or the proposed placement of the shed.
Is there a picture of that shed?
So the shed, this is what it would look like. It's not existing right now, but this is what it would look
Must
like.
be brand new.
So it's brand new.
So the only difference between this and the first one is it's not built yet.
Pretty much.
Basically.
Pretty much.
Can I ask Danielle a question?
And the garage is
Planning,
larger.
zoning? Is that-
Sure.
Why yes on this and not the first one? Just because the first one I'm personally, again, based on all the conversations that we've done with this, anything new, I'm pretty much against. Anything existing, especially Bartlett, I'm for. In the case that I just voted yes, it's been there for 10 years. Clearly her neighbors probably don't have an issue with it. But why did planning and zoning say yes to this and others, but not the first one? And only difference I'm really hearing is because the first one was started and these haven't been.
Yes, I mean, I can definitively tell you the reason that the first one received a split vote was because two of us, myself was one included, that voted no, felt that this person had specifically gone against the village instruction and just kind of done it anyway, belligerently. The other ones, these newer ones that we're talking about, so there's been a lot of confusion, I think at our level as well, about what the recommendation guidance was. I think if you recall, when this first came to the board, I want to say maybe 3 months ago, this was after planning and zoning, it had several of these. There was a bit of, I think we perceived it as pushback from the board on the kind of strict parameters that we were applying to define a hardship, one of which was the garage. And I know Andy has had several conversations with us about, well, we should use garage size as an indicating factor of a hardship, and then we shouldn't use garage size as an indicating factor of hardship. So that was not kind of clearly defined for us at the commission. And then, of course, as we're hearing some of these petitioners come up, and might I remind you, many of these were not, the full Planning and Zoning Commission was not there for the vote. But many of the petitioners had the same story that we had already approved sheds for, which is, you know, I have 2 cars and I have a riding mower and I don't want to store my gasoline in my garage, nor do I want to store my other yard chemicals. So without kind of some strict guidelines on what we are supposed to do with regards to parameters, it's made it a very difficult
So referring it
activity.
back to you like we did tonight is not going to help you at all, because we didn't give you any more clear.
I don't think your microphone's on.
Well, it is. I'm just not talking
Oh,
to you. I apologize.
sorry.
So referring the first one back to you isn't going to help.
I mean, I can only give you my opinion. The first one, for example, I will not be changing my vote on it. But I think if you have some of the other members of the commission that may be present at the next meeting that were perhaps not at the meeting in question, they may feel differently. I don't want to speak for them, of course.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I'm still back at, this is going to open a can of worms of other people over the years coming to petition us to put up sheds, and I think that the overall community has for years been against that. So why we keep going around in these circles, I'm confused.
I agree.
Other,
I would only like to see in the future the sheds coming before us that have been there for some length of time, and we can consider them, but no new sheds.
Or if there's a house, I don't know if Danielle was the one that just said that, if there is a house in Old Town of 45 acres that fits the parameters that
Right,
we've approved
right.
the other ones in Bartlett.
Yeah.
If it happens to be a 1-car garage that's on a slab and doesn't have the other amenities that some of the other houses. I mean, there's half a dozen 3-car garages on my street, so.
I will mention one thing. So anyone who petitions, it will have to come before the board, even if it's existing or not. That's the legal process.
Okay, I get it.
And we have already surveyed
Right.
the entire village, so we shouldn't have any old sheds coming before you.
Yes, yeah.
So what
we-
is the,
did we miss one, or
Oh,
we
we
haven't voted
might
yet.
have one more coming, or no?
Of an older shed?
Yeah,
Yeah, 7-year-old shed.
okay.
That would be the last existing one.
So
I'm sorry.
we have opened up a can of worms because, I mean, we have people who don't have sheds now asking for them.
But the other thing too is how are we going to rectify if somebody just goes ahead and just builds a shed and then we're not
They would get a
penalizing them at
citation,
all?
as we said, and.
But they don't get a citation until after if they don't take it down. Is from my understanding. Why wouldn't we give them a citation right from the get-go for putting it up without coming to the?
Yeah.
Well, because often they don't know the rules, so we try to be flexible with people.
And even though we do, publish this periodically and smoke signals are on our webpage, sometimes people just put things up and we won't know until after the fact. If they come in and ask for a building permit, we'll tell them right away
Okay,
they're not allowed. It's normally after the fact.
okay.
Yeah, it's usually, a resident tells us or Public Works notices, hey, there's something up there, and then we'll send a letter or we'll send code enforcement out to talk to them, say, hey, this is actually not allowed. like the one, we had another one on Osceola that will eventually be coming to you. That's the one I talked about that just went up like about a month ago. And yeah, code enforcement went out there and said, hey, this is not allowed. The guy had no idea. And so that's kind of how it's worked.
Right,
Yeah.
it's always asked for forgiveness.
We did have a resident,
Forgiveness later.
was it 2 or 3 years ago on Wolf Road, who just started putting one up, and the neighbors saw it and notified us, and it ended up they applied for a variance, and they did not get it.
Andy, I have a question, and I'm sorry if this is a bad question, but is this 6543 or 6534?
Yeah, I think that's a typo on the agenda. The memo is correct. The agenda should be switched
43.
around.
So it's 6543?
Yes.
And I'll amend my motion to correct that as well.
The other
Second.
thing,
And
Andy,
Charlie, you okay with
Second.
Thank you.
the other thing, Andy, how big is this shed? I don't see any.
This one?
Correct.
The proposed one? The proposed shed. You know what? I don't even know if the gentleman provided, but it would have to be 12 by 12 or smaller, as the shed ordinance mandates.
Yeah,
Because
So-
we should have that in the ordinance as well.
it is.
No,
12 by 12 by 10.
I'm sorry. it's
Yeah,
ours.
I think this is the max
Oh,
size, but
Okay, other questions, comments?
I have to say-
Are we ready to vote? I see one nodding. I think I see others. Clerk Allison, could we have a vote on ordinance 2022-28, special use shed 6543
43.
Cochise, right?
Okay.
yes.
Okay, trustee Donnersberger.
No.
Trustee Eck.
aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
No.
Trustee Kennedy.
No.
Trustee Metz.
No.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
No.
Okay.
Is that it?
Did not
That did not pass. Okay, next item.
Okay,
Rita?
the next two are going to be similar, and I'm going to read those. I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-29, granting a special use for shed at 6324 Pontiac.
Thank you, Charlie. A second?
I'll second that.
Was that Rita? Thank you.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yes, like Charlie said, this one is similar. Commission voted 4-0 to recommend. This is a shed that does not currently exist. The petitioner's garage is 20 by 20, and they have received the signatures and agreed to meet the criteria. That's all I got.
And no picture as far as what they're planning.
No, there is.
There.
So
It's on page 48 of the packet.
yeah. They have two proposed locations. Either of them meet the criteria, and then their shed is 12 by 12 by 10, and this is what it would look like. Yes.
Other questions or comments? I don't hear or see any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote unless anybody going once, going twice?
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
No.
Trustee Donnersberger.
No.
Trustee Kennedy.
No.
Trustee Metz.
No.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
No.
All right, that has not been approved. And Charlie, if you have the next one?
I do indeed. I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-30, granting a special use for a shed at 6529 Cochise.
And the second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie and Rita. Andy?
Yes. Well, first, would the homeowner like to say a few words, and then?
I mean, I pretty much went through everything in the zoning committee. I mean, it's a 7-by-7 shed. I left plenty of pictures there. It's been up for, My daughter was a year old when I got it, so she's 15 now. There was a
Hate to
structure.
interrupt, can you try to talk into the microphone? People watching
Sorry, better?
electronically won't be able to hear you.
Better?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
So I put the shed up. There was an existing structure there. It was very dilapidated. John might remember from back in the days when we had some flooding on the creek over there. I had an old, there was no need for me to have anything inside of it at that time, but when my daughter was turned 1, then the toys started showing up in bikes and everything, so I had to put up something that was a little more, wouldn't fall down on the kids. So it's a small 7x7 shed tucked away in a corner. I don't know what else you want to say, Andy? Or
I thought that this shed was only, didn't you replace the shed somewhat recently?
No, I replaced it 14 years ago. Yeah, my wife corrected me.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
So, 13 years ago, it was replaced?
It replaced, there was a structure there. There was a structure when I bought the house.
But I thought you said it was 7 years old, so did you?
No, it's 14. My wife corrected me.
Okay.
So, and like I bought the house in 2003, I believe, and there was something there. I didn't need it at the time, didn't have any kids. So we just let it sit there. Then once we started to get enough tricycles and sheds, and we needed the need for that. So I took that one down because it was dilapidated, and I put in the 7x7 shed that's there now. Yeah, sorry, I'll use the microphone. I put it in, 14 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, my wife corrected me on that.
Yeah, okay.
She said our daughter was a year old when we did,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, the memo's wrong then, yeah.
John might remember it from when we had some flooding.
5 years ago.
We had flooding a while back, yeah.
But in all honesty, I was more focused on the flooding than I was on your
Me too.
backyard.
Yep. Any other questions for Peter? So again, it's been there 14 years.
It was replaced 14 years ago, so
Correct.
it's been there for longer than
There
that.
was something old that was there. It was wooden. It was half, falling apart. So I took that down because it wasn't safe and put this one up. I don't know if there was a permit before from the original owner when they put it in. I don't know.
I don't either. I don't think so, but any other questions or comments for Peter or for each other or Andy? I think we're good, sir, if you want to sit down. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
No.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
So
Okay,
that has been
is-
approved. Thank you. Okay, that is it for the sheds, is that correct? Somebody
Yes.
like to make a motion for the water main project?
I'll make a motion to approve an amended task order 22.03 from Strand Associates, increasing the task order amount by $40,000 to a total of $123,900. This is due to an increase in the scope of services for the repairs to the water main replacement project.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean and Chris. Is this you, John?
Yes. Originally, we were going to replace the water main on Joliet Road. This task order is also adding Roofers Road to the list. Also, we use material called ductile iron for our water mains. In my career, it's pretty much been ductile iron. Is that there are supply chain issues right now with ductile iron, so getting it and the price of ductile iron has skyrocketed. There is an alternative technology that staff is becoming convinced may be proper for the village. It's basically slip lining with a cured in place process where basically a balloon of poly material is injected into the water main. It's cured with glue, and then the service lines are cut out via a robot. We believe that this will be less expensive than ductile iron, and it's a very cost-effective method. Restoration is minimal as opposed to open cutting several hundred feet for water main, we'll have 2 or 3 pits that we dig. It's also in a section of area that do not have a lot of water services, so it's a great test platform for this technology. So staff would like to go down this path.
John, why is an area that has not many service lines a good place for this?
Well, because there's less disruption, because when the water main is taken out of service, the people will be out of water, so then we'll have to lay an alternative water main, usually a series of rigid hoses for people to get water to their houses while the process is going on. So.
And how long has this technology been in existence?
The technology has been in existence for decades. Normally, it's used for sewer work, and in the last, Justin, Don, help me, 15, 20 years, it's been approved for potable water by the EPA. It's just that in the water world, we are very traditional in what we like to see in water mains. Ductile iron is the gold star, but there are emerging technologies that might be replacing ductile iron, and this is a great opportunity to experiment, so to speak. There are not a lot of water services, so if the project goes south, we're not going to be affecting a lot of people.
You don't expect it to go south, do you?
No, but you never know. So we always plan for contingencies, which we'll be talking about in the next task order.
So you have on here, the increase in cost is due to increased engineering design and inspection services? It's not for the material or anything like that?
No. We'll go out for bid for this, so we won't know until the bids actually come in.
So we're going out for bid for?
The water main replacement program with the cured in place pipe methodology.
The engineering has to be done first, right?
Yes.
And do we go out for bid for the engineering for that?
No, we use our
40?
village engineer for that.
We go out to bid periodically, right, for the engineer?
Yes. So Illinois law requires engineers, architects, and land surveyors that we do request for qualifications process. And we've done this twice in the last 7 years. And once you have a relationship established with an engineering firm, you stay with that engineer. You just can't pick an engineer randomly for projects, especially of this scale. So Strand and Thomas are our engineers of record. Strand typically does our water work, and Thomas is now doing our road work.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of money.
Clerk Allison? Oh,
It's come up all of a sudden, an amount that's 50% increase in their fee.
When we were looking at the availability of ductile iron, it really became clear that it wasn't available, and if it is, long wait period and exorbitant cost. We saw the need to get this done because we are seeing increased water main breaks on Joliet Road and on Roofers Road, so the Public Works Department thought it was important to expedite this process.
Well, not only are we changing the scope of the project, we're increasing the scope,
Yes.
right? Adding, Roofers Row wasn't originally on it.
Was not?
No,
and they were further down in,
wasn't.
No.
Okay, we're good. All right, thank you.
I believe Roofers Road was further down the list on the capital plan, and recently we've been having breaks, so we moved it up. So the
Correct.
plan is just that, a plan, and things change, so it bubbled up to the top, so to
So
speak.
to speak.
How many breaks have we had on Roofers Road?
In the last,
Justin's going to come to the podium to tell us.
Talking to the mic. In the last 4 years that I've been here, we've probably had 7 breaks in that area. And they're all really big, bad blowouts where it's not just a little water on the ground, and it causes a lot of restoration in the Roofers Road parking lot. They're almost kind of used to it. They're good people, but I think they are getting a little bit tired of it. So the quality of the soils over there is just, there's like a rock, maybe just that they backfilled, and it's just been sitting digging on it for 30 years or 40 years, whatever. This cured in place lining we think is really great because it uses the existing as a shell, as a vessel, so that it can be filled in. So, my opinion, it's good for. It's going to be good for certain areas, especially maybe in other towns, where like old towns in Chicago or something, where there's 50 million utilities already in the ground, where you're not taking up space somewhere else. You're reusing it, so it's good for other utilities. But yes, we have had quite a few over there. And it was brought up, so the increase was because, hey, we would like to add this. It's going to really help us out. We didn't think it was as bad as it was. So that's kind of the increase.
And Justin, in the discussions that we've had at Public Works, I believe we saw images of pipe that had this lining put in, and the pipe had separation. The ductile iron had separated, but it still worked because we're kind of putting we are putting slip lining material inside that, and that's flexible. It doesn't break if the pipe breaks or has a knot, right?
Correct. Yeah. So and PVC is being used for water main. It's durable, but I think they did testing on it where, we don't have earthquakes here, but they did do it so they could test, say in other areas, maybe California, when it really shifts like that much, it's going to hold. So that's a great selling point, I guess, that they've brought up.
Any other questions for Justin or John, or comments? Thank you, Justin.
Thanks.
Okay, I don't hear any. I'll speak slowly. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that's been approved. Thank you. The next task order, amendment pump station.
Yes, sorry, let me get to my handwritten note, because I make a motion to approve amendment to task order 21-04 from Strand Associates, increasing the task order from $97,400 to $108,900, an increase of $11,900. This is due to an addition of looking into alternative water sources and piping needs.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean and Chris. John, is this you?
Yes, we're going to be doing the reservoir reconstruction and, repair work, pump station reconstruction at the same time. One of the things we've discovered during the engineering is we're going to be we will not be able to take water from Countryside for a period of time, and we are looking at alternative water sources, either through the village of Burr Ridge or LaGrange Highlands. We're also looking to add additional piping at the pump station to help with the reservoir, so that is the reason for the increase of cost, increase in scope of services. Have I covered it?
We have the connections to LaGrange Highlands and Burr Ridge for emergencies,
Purposes.
both us and them, right? And occasionally we will open the line and let the water flow.
However, that is limited use, not meant to provide the entire village that's on Indian Head Park water. This will actually provide a mini pump station, so to speak, is what we're anticipating, and that's what the engineers are looking at right now.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
That has been approved. Thank you. Next item for facility study.
I make a motion to approve Task Order 2205, a task order from Strand Associates to conduct a facility study for the village in an amount not to exceed $47,000.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rita and Sean. John?
So part of the board's goals this year was to do a facility study, and this kind of morphed out of the study that we want to do for the Heritage Center to determine whether or not the Heritage Center should be continue to be used. Is it an asset to the village worth keeping? So I believe during our budget discussions, Trustee Eck also asked about the useful life of this building, and we added Public Works for that building too. Has this facility gone to its useful life? Do we have any more years left out of it? Do we have enough space in this facility, in the police department, at Public Works? Do we need to expand? Do we need whatever? And the Heritage Center as well. So we went out for proposals to 2 companies that we are authorized to do business with, architectural firms, Strand Associates and Altus Works. We've had an established relationship with them, so I asked them for proposals. The one from Altus Works was just under $76,500. Strand was $47,000. They both would do a fine job for us, but I felt that the Strand proposal, in addition to being lesser cost, also was more comprehensive in the work that they're going to be doing for the village. Strand's been our engineer for a while. They were our engineer in the early 90s, late 80s, so they understand some of the village facilities, so I think that they will do a fine job for us.
What's our experience with Altus Works?
They were with us when we did the church study, and they basically said that the church, we were looking to buy the Lionsville Congregational Church, and the cost of repairs that they estimated led us to believe that it was not worth the investment. It was too expensive.
We weren't looking to buy it, they were going to give it to us.
Yes, correct. You are right. We would end up spending several $1 million to fix it, so yes. You are correct.
There was a cost involved.
Yes,
Yes.
correct. Thank you.
Questions or comments about this?
Does the Strand estimate include all the components of the Altus?
Yes, yes.
And go even beyond that?
And even beyond that, especially with meetings and presentations to the board.
It's a $30,000 difference.
Yeah.
almost.
And one thing I did notice about the Altus proposal is they have, structural engineers, and then in some instances, they name who's going to be doing what, and I'm wondering if Strand has that kind of.
They absolutely. Strand is a very large engineering company, and they have PEs, they have structural engineers, they have architects on staff.
Yeah, I think we talked about, I mean, this is a guess, but I think part of the reason that the Strand cost was lower is it's a giant organization.
And they have hundreds of engineers, and Altus Works is what, 20?
Yeah.
12, something?
I think 12 was the number, yeah.
So different
So
size.
economies
Not that means
It
other
was
than.
economies of scale, yeah. They just have a much larger outfit.
Yeah,
No,
Altus Works
Alta-
is primarily an architectural firm.
Yeah.
Alta had, in their quotes, they were going to do an environmental study as well.
Yeah, that was
And-
an additional.
Right, but you say that that's important, but not now. Why would it not be important now if we're going to be doing a facility study?
It's because we went through our historical records and we have no evidence at all that there's any soil contamination, underground storage tanks buried, things of that nature. The Public Works facility is relatively new in the scheme of things, as is Village Hall, and we have a history with the Heritage Center, so I think doing environmental soils testing is not required.
Would it be expensive if we did it?
The Altus Works, it's like $14,000 for the Altus Works, so it would be a cost. We can look at that when the time comes.
Yeah, maybe if we were going to expand or something, but if we're going to sell a lot, just a building, then I don't know that we would need to, unless we needed to as a condition of sale. So I agree that's something we could do down the road if needed. Other questions, comments? Okay, Clerk Allison, another roll call vote, please.
Trustee Farrell, Mayor.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Abstain.
Okay.
Thank you, that has been approved. The keyless entry bid, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-33, awarding a bid for a keyless access system to Midwest Integrated Services for $66,413 even.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean and Rita. Andy?
Yes. So this is a project that's kind of been in the works for a few years now. This was actually originally included in the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget, but it was removed upon the onset of the pandemic when we still were not sure what the financial effect of the pandemic was going to be on the village. So that was a program or a project that was cut. And so we've been wanting to do this for a few years. It's probably past time to upgrade the security at our public facilities. You know, we've had employees turn over, and we collect the keys, but you never know. And either way, this was a proposal that went out at the end of June. We received 10 proposals from 7 firms, which is great to get that many. This one took a little bit longer than most RFP processes because we really wanted to make sure we did it right. So we required that all of the potential bidders meet with us, like myself, Justin, and Don, for tours of the facilities, just so that they knew exactly what we were looking for, and to make sure that everybody was bidding on the same kind of project, apples to apples. And so anyways, we got the 10 proposals back, and the lowest qualified bidder is Midwest Integrated Systems. The idea here is to install card readers, or fob readers is what it's actually going to be, at all of the entrances of Village Hall, the police side, of course, too, and also Public Works. And so every employee will be given a key fob for access. We'll have the ability to customize which fobs can open which doors. We can also determine what time the front door opens to the public, things like that. The system also will keep a record. I think it's 6 months duration of who went through what door at which time. So if there ever was an issue, we could figure out, okay, this employee or this person went through this door at this specific date and time. And with that, staff is recommending that we accept and award the project. We checked out the references, OPRF, the Village of Downers Grove. All of them were very positive about Midwest Integrated Solutions. They have over 15 years of experience in these kinds of projects, and so we're recommending approval.
Thank you, Andy. Any questions or comments?
A couple of them. Is there an annual cost to this?
Yeah, so there is let me pull it up. It's in the bid tab. I got that. Yeah, so there is a $45 per month alarm monitoring fee, which is close to what we pay right now. And then in addition to that, there is a support service that we are recommending we go with, which would include if there's a problem with the system, we can call them, they can help us out. Also, they will do the software updates and all of that for us. So the ongoing cost would be $2,535 per year.
That's for the support?
Yeah, for the support, and then that's also included the $45.
If we were just to replace all of the keys that we now have in our facilities with new keys, what would that cost?
I can't tell you.
I have to replace the locks.
Yeah, not
Several hundred or
replace the lock,
something.
Pardon
Much
me?
less than
change the
66.
locking.
Yeah.
So that'd be $2,500 a year, or $2,500 to do that.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking new locks and new keys.
Yeah, we're looking at the alternative of staff changes, and if annually or whenever there'd been a major staff change, we change the locks appropriately, then I was just wondering what the cost of that is. So it sounds to me like we're paying an extra $66,000 for keyless entry, and the $2,500 is something that we would be paying anyhow for changing locks, except we haven't been doing that, whereas the $2,500 would be mandatory. The $2,535 would be mandatory under this agreement.
It would be, well, we're recommending it, but the support agreement itself is $2,000. The $535 part, that's from the burglar alarm fees. So this is so the $66,000 includes the keyless access, which is about $58,000 of it, and then the other $8,000 is a replacement of the burglar alarm system at Public Works. The current system is old, and we're looking to replace it anyway, so we included it in this proposal. I think the reason we kind of like this the keyless access stuff is because of the log and the ability to customize who has access to where, because not everybody needs access. Not everybody needs access to the gun room. Not everybody needs access to this or that. Not that everybody currently does, but the ability to customize who has access to where and to have a record of it in case there's ever an incident. That's something that we really like, and I think facility security is something that's increasingly becoming important in this day and age, unfortunately.
So in the simpler terms, if we didn't go with this proposal, we still would want to do a change in the security system for $8,000, plus change the locks for another $2,500. So for less than $15,000, we could have similar security, but no tracking, and
yeah, I mean, I think that we would want to do that at the bare minimum. Yeah.
The $2,500 figure that you just guessed at that, we don't really know what that would cost, do we?
No, that's the actual
Oh, you have
cost.
gotten
Yes. The support agreement's $2,000, and then the burglar alarm is $45 a month.
Chris, are you talking about changing the locks cost? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know what the changing the locks
We
cost.
haven't
No.
gotten that, so you're just guessing at
There's
that.
probably more labor than material.
how many doors?
Yeah, I
how
would
many
think
doors have locks
2,500
on
would
it?
be cheap.
So there's 19 at at Village Hall, and then how many do we have at Public Works?
I think a year ago we got an estimate just to change locks at Public Works, and that was ballpark $1,100, changing all the locks down at Public Works. I'm not going to count in my head right now. Andy's probably better counting the locks, but that was like a year ago, just to change the locks and get new keys. We didn't ask about over here. So price probably went up, if that helps.
But I think we can all agree it would be less than the $66,000 is the point you're making, right?
Indeed.
Considerably less, probably could
Yes.
add.
Yeah.
All right, other questions, comments?
This would be for all three buildings, not the Heritage Center. This building, which two buildings. This building, which includes the police station and Public Works.
Yes, the Heritage Center already has like a keypad access and a burglar alarm system, and we didn't want to add anything to it because the board has still got to decide what's the long-term plan with the building too.
Understood. Since police is involved, can I ask Chief Kernick a question? Your opinion on this? Benefits, pros, cons for your officers to have this? Do you have
You have to
input?
come to the microphone, please.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but
I haven't looked at it, so I really can't give you an opinion. I know that for home locks, you can do electronics and stuff, but I'm not doing it in my house. So I don't know how it would be for here. If we want, we can do some research on it for other departments or, police agencies in the area, see what they're doing.
thank you.
So I don't know if it's any easier or more difficult to break into these, but I know it tracks who uses the key and at what time they use it. If somebody leaves, we can deactivate. I think that it's a good idea to come into the 21st. Are we in the 21st century? Yeah.
For a few years.
Right.
Other questions,
Look around
comments?
this room.
I do have a few questions. So what software is the company using that you'll be able to pull the history of who came in and out. Do you have any idea?
It's I don't have it in front of me. It's in the packet though. I don't have the full packet.
There were how many bids that came in?
10.
10.
Okay, so we don't know that. I know you said you had just talked to Downers Grove. What other?
The Oak Park River Forest was the other reference, and then the third one I can't remember off the top of my head, but they all had good reference, all good.
And are you able? How do you pull the data from the software? I mean, where is the information stored so that way whoever needs to access can?
Yeah, it's a cloud system. I mean, we always have, like, as administrators, we would have access to it, like John and I, or whoever else we need to have access to it, like Justin and Mike and stuff like that.
And just an FYI, where I work at for McDonald's, we do have a key fob, and it's only going to let you know who comes in the building if they actually use the key fob. There are times where there is people that are just following you.
Sure.
And they are not accounted for.
I think long term, we would, and one of the cool things about this system is it can be integrated with cameras. I think long term, we want to also upgrade our cameras, because we have cameras at this facility and also have some at Public Works. They're old. We don't have all angles. So long term, we want to upgrade the camera system as well and integrate it to this, is the idea.
Okay, and as far as the burglar alarm, Midwest is going to be monitoring that?
Yes.
And what about as far as increases? That can't be a flat fee for forever, the $2,500 a year?
The 2,000, it's so yeah, I imagine it eventually would increase, just like our current
So we
burglar.
know what that's going to be, if it's going to increase 10%?
Well, then if it did increase that much, we would find someone else, or.
Well,
they
no, I
don't.
mean, if we spent all that $66,000, you want to know what the increases are going to be on an annual basis.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't think if they increase it 100% or something like that, then we'll go another direction. But I think the increases would probably be regular, like our current burglar alarm fees are regular increases.
Well, I mean, it's just there's a lack of information here, and this is a major expense in a long term as far as technology and that goes. I think we should have that information to be able to share to the board to make the right decision as far as do we move forward or do we look
Sure,
elsewhere?
yeah, we can find out what that is and come back next month.
So if they were to raise the annual fee considerably, have we thrown away and we wanted to go to a different system, have we thrown away $66,000? Or will that be,
No, because
the system be usable with another company?
Yeah, so we don't need this company to run the system. We would just like to use them to provide support for the system. We can use another like IT or tech company to provide the support, the software updates. Heck, we could do it ourselves if we really wanted to figure out how to do it.
So the hardware would stay the same?
Oh yeah, the hardware is ours, and we can upgrade it as we want.
Andy, the $2,000 a year for support, that would be the staff calling if we had an issue, we wanted to reprogram a fob or we forgot how. Is that something potentially that we could eliminate if we never called them, or?
We could, yeah. Oh yeah, if after a year we decide we don't use this, then we could eliminate it, yeah.
So what happens if the key fobs all of a sudden none of them are working? Then what do you do if we eliminate it?
You don't need the support program to get new key fobs. You can order the key fobs separately.
So it's interesting looking at this for AMS Industries. It's one of the more expensive ones, and yet the annual, rate is less than $500.
Yes.
So what's the difference in support that we're buying for?
So I think for that one they incorporated the support in, but the thing is, so 10 years 10 years of Midwest Integrated Solutions comes out to be about $101,000. Or that's our kind of going, is we're thinking the system would probably last about 10 years, maybe more. They're like Midwest Integrated Systems. I asked him how long can the system last, and he said, well, our first one we installed was 16 years ago, and it still works. So the AMS one, yeah, it is a lower per year cost, but after 10 years, it would still be more than what Midwest Integrated Solutions would be.
No, my question is different. My question is, what are we getting for the support that the variance is so great?
I'm sorry, like the support is included in the front end for
Gotcha.
AMS,
Okay.
yeah.
Andy, I assume this all works off of electricity?
Yes.
How do we get in if the power's out?
There's battery backup.
Okay.
Yeah, no, good question, yes.
So there shouldn't be a time where you couldn't access? Or
No,
will we still
no.
have a hard key?
Yeah, well, yeah, and we'll still have physical key locks as well on most of the doors.
As a
backup,
alternative.
as a backup to a backup.
Other questions?
Sounded to me like there was some questions that particularly Brenda asked that we might want to get answered before we put this on a vote. Anybody else have that feeling?
Yeah, I agree. So what would we do, defer?
You can motion to continue to the next board meeting.
So I'll make a motion to continue to the next board meeting.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Sean and Eileen. And so the questions that I heard were the software type, charges for support, ongoing schedule. Do they have a
price increases.
Yep. Brenda, what else?
Increases. Well, the increases, yes. I'd like to know a little bit more as far as, have you gone to Downers Grove or
No.
that to even go check it out to see how
No.
theirs work?
No.
And that would be nice to know. I guess just a little bit more information, what the 2,535 per year, what that really entails, and maybe even go a step further and give a little bit more details and information on another company here, and that versus there's lack
A
of
higher
information.
bidder, you mean? Or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, the higher bidder might be the same price as Midwest after the 2,535. I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any increases or not, because you says it's in the bid packet, but we didn't see any of the bid packets.
We were sent them in our packet.
I'm looking at page 237, and it talks about the service plan options. They offer fire alarm test and inspection, access control system maintenance, video surveillance system maintenance, preventive maintenance. They also ensure your system is working properly, providing you a peace of mind, prioritize schedule for service and maintenance agreement with customers.
Was that in the September binder?
Yeah, page 237 is where they see the service agreement.
237
option.
of 394?
Yes.
And that was just sent on September 6th, and I didn't have time to read
Yeah,
200
I
some
agree.
pages. I'm sorry, but I didn't.
Sure.
No, but again, we're trying to get the list. So we have the support cost increase. You're going to check, potentially look at other systems?
Yep, I will do it all, yeah.
Yeah, could you do a matrix like you did here for the costs and the yearly amount so we can compare
how
them
does
down
it,
the line next
does
to
a
one another?
10 year sound good? Yeah.
You know, what each company is providing, and so that way we can see a comparison for all the companies that submitted bids.
How about Charlie's point of just replacing the locks, and I don't want to simplify what you said, Charlie, but is that something the board would want to have staff get an estimate on that?
For what?
To replace the locks and, you know, kind of do the old-fashioned switcheroo.
To just have an idea on what that cost would be.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to rekey and get locks.
Well, that's why I was asking but if Charlie was making the point, we could replace all the locks and keys for a smaller amount. Let's say it's
I think
3,000.
we all agree to, but that's not something that we're.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because it came up, and again, we want to try to be ready in 30 days at the next meeting.
It's a good question to ask, is to get a rough estimate, but if you talk to any locksmith, they'll give you a per door price. And so if you identify the number of doors, they'll.
Yeah, we'll get some pricing.
Yeah, you'll get that.
Should we ask that if the board has any questions to have them into you by next Friday? Because there might be other things that come up.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
Brenda has a chance to go through and, yeah, I mean, you're probably gonna have more, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we need to vote on tabling this.
Motion to continue.
Motion to continue, thank you, Pat. And that was by Sean and Rita, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, no, Shaw and Eileen, sorry.
Sean and
Yeah,
Eileen.
Rita was originally.
Right. Clerk Allison, can we do a roll call, please?
All right, so Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
And Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that's been approved. We'll come back next month, again, get Andy any other questions or concerns. Next item, ordinance for establishment of the rank of commander.
Oops, sorry. Where's my ordinance? I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-34, creating the rank of police commander.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda and Charlie. John, is this you or Chief or?
I was trying to.
I'll start, and the chief can add comments as he sees fit. So a few years ago, we had the position of temporary commander established. That was under Chief Cervenka. And then we moved into the deputy chief position. We really don't have anybody qualified for tenure that we would like to have in the deputy chief position, but Mike, the chief, needs some higher level support. He is now doing double duty as chief of police and deputy chief, so he would like to move up an individual to be more administrative support and still be on the call out list, not riding a desk, so to speak. So other towns have done this. It's just basically the number 2 person in the department that the chief can give higher level projects to help him do his job more effectively. Have I missed anything?
Well said. Just so the board's aware, for a deputy chief position, the person has to be currently employed by the department for 5 years, minimum of 5 years, and we only have 3 people who are in that category right now. And we're not in a position right now to bring them up to the deputy chief position. The commander appointment would be an appointment and a good training ground for future development, along with sending them to additional leadership schools, either through Staff and Command, through Northwestern University, Southern Police Institute, or the FBI National Academy, which is all a good training ground for future leadership. We need to have succession here, and we have to plan for succession. Maybe next year we can start looking at, maybe promotional for a sergeant position like we had in the past. So we have leadership on each shift. Right now we have officers in charge. While they're in charge and they can make decisions for the department, they're still patrolmen, and they still have allegiance to the patrol factor, in my opinion. So that's why I think we need to have somebody at a commander rank at least to have some additional leadership, some pride in receiving that position, and future work. And like John was saying, I need help. I'm trying to carry the load myself, and it's hard for at times to do this stuff. There's too many, and especially with all these new edicts put on us with the January 1st, it's going to be a madhouse with the no bond situation, how we're going to handle that. We need additional training for our officers, and we have to be able to manage that. So that's why I think we need this position.
Thank you, Chief. Questions for the chief or John, or comments? Okay. I don't hear or see, so roll call vote, please. Clerk Allison?
Trustee O'Loughlin?
Aye.
Trustee Eck?
Aye.
Trustee Metz?
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy?
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer?
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger?
Aye.
Thank you.
It's been approved, so Chief, hopefully we can get some help soon. Thank you for all your work. Next resolution about temporary use of alcohol at Blackhawk Park.
I make a motion to pass Resolution 05-22, a resolution allowing for the temporary use of alcohol at Blackhawk Park.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda and Charlie. John?
This is Trustee O'Loughlin.
Oh, Brenda.
So on September 17th, we're going to be having the movie in the park, and we looked at what football game is going to be taking place on Sunday. It happens to be the Bears against Green Bay Packers, so we're already going to have the big screen, and we have the okay to be able to watch the Bears game against Green Bay at the park. There's no issues there. And so we thought, well, at the Bears game, everybody does like to have one or two cocktails and that. So we thought it would be a nice idea to be able to have an adult event, because on Saturday's more of the children's event, and that's why we were passing this resolution, so that way we continue to look, possibly having food trucks at the event, and it's still in the making, because we literally just got word maybe about 15 minutes ago that everything is okay for us to show the Bears game at the park if we so desire.
That's on Sunday, the next day?
It is.
And is it a night?
What time would that be approximately?
It's at 7 o'clock, the Bears game.
In the evening?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just say there's precedent for this, because years ago, they used to have concerts in Blackhawk Park. And you could bring your picnic basket and wine or whatever you wanted. So we have done it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And we obviously do it for the car show. I know it's a little bit different, but, so this is for 2 days, and if I'm following, for the
Correct.
movie
Now
and
the
the next day
right,
for the Bears game.
Right. The movie night, there's no alcohol. This is only for...
Oh, so it's only for the Bears game?
Only for
but
the
since
Bears
we
game.
have the screen, you're saying from the movie, we're going to carry it over. Okay.
Correct.
And it is just BYOB, or are we?
BYOB, we are not getting involved with selling right now.
Okay.
Yes.
But maybe have food trucks, right?
Yes, we're looking into that. Mm-hmm. we
But
need
people
to-
could bring food too, right?
Oh, absolutely. We just need to get the okay that we could show the Bears game, and we just got it, like I say, about 15 minutes ago, so now we can go full speed ahead.
We were waiting for approval
idea.
from the National Football League.
Was that approval easy? Was that just getting the Bears or the NFL or?
As long as we're not going to charge,
We're good.
we're good.
Right. So that tagline that you always hear, express written consent. Is
And-
that express written consent?
Yeah.
Our vendor will be able to broadcast the game, of course, and all that.
We're checking all that out. He will not be there because he'll be at the Green Bay game,
Yeah.
but he will have somebody there working it for us.
He does the show at the game, right? Not only is he there, but he runs the video. Any questions, comments? Think it's a great idea. Clerk Allison, roll call vote, please.
Trustee O'Loughlin?
Aye.
Trustee Eck?
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer?
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy?
Aye.
Trustee Metz?
Aye.
And Trustee Donnersberger?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we're at the reports time. Go around the table. I'll start with Eileen, looking like nice and warm over there.
Happy I brought this in from the car. So the Economic Development Committee is still struggling, for want of a better word, to help improve up at the Triangle area. We're working with IDOT in order to be able to landscape that strip down Joliet Road. Looks like we'll probably get approval, but until then, we're sort of put on hold what we're going to do there. So we should know that shortly. The facade is still a struggle in terms of what we're going to do. We're going to meet with the owner of the strip mall, and unfortunately, he's out sick. He's had some kind of major surgery, so he couldn't meet with us, and probably won't be able to for another several weeks. So once we are able to meet with him, then we can start talking again about prices and his involvement, as well as our involvement in that. Cannabis seems to be a dead deal. We haven't heard from anybody. And moreover, I think that lot is no longer for sale. Oh, and can I say this about the Dunkin' Donut?
Not yet.
Oh.
And when you say the lot is not for sale,
There's one lot that we thought might be appropriate because it's sort of off the beaten track. It's not, I hate to say visible because any entity going in there would want visibility, but it's not really that visible to the people of the village. So we thought it would be an ideal place for the cannabis place were somebody interested, but there doesn't appear to be any interest, and the people that own the lot have taken it off the market.
is that the lot on Vine or the one on Wolf or a
It's on
different?
Wolf Road, the one
Yeah.
where the houses used to be.
Okay, thank you. You're done?
Yes.
Thanks. Sean?
So, reminder, Monday is our last cruise night for car shows, starting at 5 p.m. to 8, weather dependent, and that is, we have the ordinance in place for people to buy beverages in the Triangle area from Oak Pantry or one of the bars or restaurants there. Again, that's on next Monday, the 12th. And the 25th Sunday, we have the full annual car show. That starts at noon, goes to 4. Same ordinance is in place for that, so hopefully we have some sun both of those days. And then as Tom mentioned in the mayor's notes, per our Public Works meeting with Thomas Brennan on the 30th, it was an impressive meeting. An impressive young man. Wants us to look at a tree committee. There's a lot of other things that we could be looking at in this village per just that one meeting that he had. So, and based on what I heard, was it Brenda you said that was interested? So
Yes.
I'll be reaching out to Brenda shortly and try and get something moving here. That's it.
Chris?
No special report, but can I do a public service announcement?
Sure.
I worked in the masonry industry for about 40 years now. I work for a brick manufacturer currently, and I find it disturbing to see how many houses are they're painting their brick. It's a bad idea. It's not good for the overall health of your building. Brick needs to breathe, and you can, if you want to change the color, you can stain it, but painting it prevents it from breathing, and it's important in our freeze-thaw climates that brick can do that. So I just wanted to get that off my chest because it seems to be an epidemic these days, and it's you're taking a permanent finish and creating a maintenance issue where you don't necessarily need to. So thank you for giving me the soapbox for a second.
Thank you, Chris. Brenda?
Yes. Last Tuesday, Danielle Svetska, John DeRocher, and myself, we had the opportunity to finally speak with the towway team because one of their employees they had COVID. So it took a few weeks. It was great meeting with them. The towway team shared that the silt fence that's within the creek was placed there by the towway, and that when I had talked to John, in the creek itself, there was a huge bed of garbage and we thought it was the towway, but it actually was NWRD that actually pulled away the barrier and just left it flow down the creek, and that it was not the towway, and that which is very disappointing to hear that they had done that. The towway is also interested with the community to collaborate on a final landscaping plans for the impacted areas that the towway has done from Plainfield Road all the way going down. And that final plans, they says that probably the sound walls probably will be up, they're hoping before December, but by the end of December for sure. And then all that section will be done, and then they probably start forming some type of committee, and we could collaborate with them to help design as far as all the areas that they had torn up and make sure that it's brought back even better than it looked before. And so we were very excited about that. The towway team indicated the village has requested. So this was one of the things that was a little baffling, and we're really unsure that underneath the bridge that we wanted to have a multi-purpose use, multi-use path, and that we are unclear as far as who requested that, and there's still, so we're going to be working on as far as the landscaping for that particular area as well, but to John's knowledge, we did not request any type of multi-use path underneath the bridge, which is over Plainfield Road. There was a concern when we were down there by a resident on Keokuk who has 2 little children, and I actually did see, I was walking the dogs, and I was down at the other end of Keokuk, and I did see a little child running across the street, and it was their child, because there's an open space there now, because MWRD did tear down a bunch of bushes, so that way they could get to supposedly cutting down trees that were going to fall into the water. And that's, so we're looking into seeing what we could do there to protect the residents, because now these kids are seeing the open area and they see the water and they think it's good to go down there and play. So I mean, so it was a really great conversation. The engineer was there. I mean, they really came in and they really spoke well as far as everything that is going on, the plans and that, which was great. And that you get a little bit more confidence within them, that knowing that they do want to work and collaborate with the village, which was nice. And that, as I had previously stated, the Village of Indian Head Park and C-Spar will be having the second movie night on September 17th. We're going to be presenting The Sound of Music. It will begin at 7 p.m. at Black Hawk Park. C-Spar will be having the cotton candy, popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, just like they did last time. And then now that we know, September 18th, bring your own booze and food, and we will try to get food trucks to watch the Bear Green Bay Packers game. It'll start probably around 7 o'clock. More information will come out about that because, like I say, we just got the okay that we can move forward with it. So it'll be a nice weekend for the village, Saturday for the kids and Sunday for the adults. And that's some more to come.
Yeah, had a question. What is the trash on Flat Creek? Did you say MBRD?
MWRD.
What does that stand for?
Metropolitan Water Reclamation Department.
District.
Oh, district, sorry.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
That is it.
Thank you. Rita?
No report.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yes, I wanted to bring up the issue in regards to the Fire and Police Commission. Indian Head Park appoints members to this commission. It's required if you have a population over 5,000. We have a population of about 4,000. It's not required. I looked in the village ordinance to see what the charter was for the Fire and Police Commission. It didn't give me much information as to what they're responsible for doing unless they're referring to state license with that. And I have some other questions in regards to that. But John, you and I kind of chatted with this, and I think you indicated that you might be able to share some of the questions on this now.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in 1978 or 1979, the village board established a Fire and Police Commission. And as Trustee Eck said earlier, we're not required to have one because we're under 5,000 in population. However, I think at the time, and looking at the history of the village, the board thought that it was better to have civilian oversight, non-elected official oversight over the rank and file police officers for a number of reasons. And to be candid, we've had sometimes not the best police department in the world. We had a chief of police, former chief of police, I should say, who spent time in jail because of criminal activity he did on the job. So the Police and Fire Commission, or Fire and Police Commission technically, is responsible for the hiring, discipline, and firing of rank and file officers, and that is their sole purview. They are a separate public body, and even though the membership is appointed by the village president with the advice and consent of the board, they are an independent body within the village. So they get to meet, and it's almost always having to do with personnel issues. So much of what they do is in closed session. They are required by law to review their closed session minutes semi-annually. All evidence indicates that they do that. And then they release minutes as appropriate. They are also very active in their training. Enthusiastically, they attend annual Police and Fire Commission training throughout the state of Illinois, and in fact, we even send Lisa to that training as well. They are 3 members, and that's per Illinois code, Illinois statute, so we have 3 members. They do have to post a bond with the village. You didn't know this, but you have a bond with the village that our risk management agency covers. So that's all part of the process. I think that is...
It's a question of officers of the village.
They are
it
considered
says
to be officers of the village. So that is...
By virtue of their appointment?
By virtue of their appointment. And they do, they take an oath. And that is kind of it. The main thing is they are an independent body of the village. So therefore, they operate somewhat autonomously under Illinois law.
Yeah, under section 2-154, powers and duty of our ordinance, related to powers and duties, it says the Board of the Fire and Police Commissioners shall have powers and duties as are now or may hereafter be given to it by the law. There's certainly nothing that the village has said, at least not in what I could see from the ordinance. So where does that come
state
from?
Law on this.
Is that in the ordinance someplace?
I cannot answer that
Can we check
specifically,
and
but
verify that?
typically
Thank
we
you.
mirror state law. And the Police and Fire Commission does have their own attorney. We haven't been utilizing him lately, but we will be in the future. And please note that the village attorney cannot be the attorney for the Police and Fire Commission. We've had this conversation before. Our village attorney, Pat Brank, and I have. It would be a conflict of interest or conflict of duty for our village attorney to also serve as another village attorney or attorney for a public body within the corporation of the Village of Indian Park.
One of the items that you mentioned was that the commission would review releasing their minutes from time to time. In the last several years, has that occurred, do you know?
They have reviewed minutes. I don't know if they've released anything yet, but they do review closed session minutes, and I see that from the open session minute or the open session agendas. I don't know if they've done it twice this year so far, but Lisa has developing a template to remind herself to put it on the agenda. So,
Thank you for your review.
Can I ask why all the questions about the Police and Fire Commission?
Quite frankly, in looking at the minutes, which I had an opportunity to see, which were 3 pages long, only about 2 paragraphs of those 3 pages related to personnel discussion related items. Other items were general of nature and not necessarily those that should have been as part of executive session, should have been open meeting sessions. And so I was looking to bring that to light, Chris.
All right, Charlie, any other questions, comments?
No report.
Did you
other
get
than
all?
that. Thank you.
Did you get all your questions answered, or are there more? Or I guess if you have more, you'll ask, right?
I'm not shy.
Thank you. All right, moving along, clerk, anything to report?
No report.
Thank you. Village treasurer, not here. Village attorney?
No report, thank you.
Village administrator?
Yet again, the village has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award by the Government Finance Officers Association. This is our 6th in a row. It was established when Helly and I came to the village, our finance manager, so
Thank
yay
you.
for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And again, I'll bring this up, Trustee Metz. I told you the budget is a story. It tells where we're spending our money. It's just not a spreadsheet. All right. My second item is at the October meeting, we will be expecting the full stormwater management report for 45 acres and 4 points outside of 45 acres. We'll be looking at this in depth at a Public Works meeting shortly before the village board meeting. And my last item is, you may have noticed that the sign in front of Village Hall is no longer there. I don't go by the sign, to the sign much, but from what Public Works tells me, it was being basically held up by the bushes. So it did not survive construction. It's not part of the construction project. So we will be looking at alternatives for a new village sign. But at the same time, we've had discussions at the board level about more signs in the village. Do we want an electronic sign? How do we better communicate with our residents? Where should we put the sign? My personal thought is the northeast corner of Wolf and Joliet, the IDOT parcel. But we're going to be looking at more signs, and this is a board decision because God knows staff will not be recommending a sign. My wife won't let me near stuff like this. So you have on the display right now some sample signs of other communities. So we'll be reaching out to the board to look at potential signs and costs. They range from, when we put in the sign at Arrowhead Point, that was $6,800. Other signs, that is $6,800.
That was a couple of years ago, correct?
2019.
Just for the sign, none of the landscaping?
No, none of the landscaping.
And the landscaping is beautiful, Brenda. So I'm happy you're on the committee.
And other signs can range from 23,000 to much greater, 100,000. So I think looking at an appropriate sign, so we're going to be looking at providing the board some cost estimates for a variety of signs. This sign is $23,000, I believe. However, since all of these signs are going to be more than $10,000, we have to prepare a bid spec and bid it out. So we're making sure that we're getting apples and apples. But this is something that's going to be forthcoming.
So part of this, John, is to get any board input, right?
Yeah.
Do we want a extravagant sign, a less extravagant, a big sign, stay with what we have at Arrowhead Point or what we have at Blackhawk Park? Or so we're looking for feedback to help drive this discussion item going forward.
Well, I think they ought to be uniform. I mean, you can't have Indian Head Park written 5 different ways with 3 different colors. If you're going to have a sign representing the village, it should be uniform throughout the village.
So then, to help me understand, so we have like a sign at Blackhawk Park that when we did the one at Arrowhead Point, you know, we had a new sign and we didn't go back and retrofit. So are we talking going back to retrofit, or as it comes up for repair, you know, or, you know, it falls apart like this sign, you know, we get it to the standard, or what?
That's at the northeast or southeast corner of Plainfield and Wolf?
This is at the southeast corner, yes.
Thank you.
Just north of Ashbrook.
So Eileen, I think you said as they come, so not to replace them all, but have a standard and going forward.
Right, because if you go to Willowbrook now, they just replaced all their signs, and it's uniform throughout the whole village. And-
Countryside does that too.
Yep.
They have a little more money than we do.
Yes.
So, some bit of history. This is a modified, we had a sign contest, and this is kind of a modified version of the winning submission.
All right, any other feedback to help John and Justin as we go forward with looking at options for the sign?
Question or comment, does it make sense to have the, can you go back to the rendering of the Village Hall sign? That, does it make sense to have those people come out and talk about signage? Because if we're gonna come up with questions, it seems reasonable to be giving it to the people that will potentially be designing and building and supplying us with the signs.
One of the issues with that is if we go out for bid, they're going to be putting their material out there for other people to bid on. So I see where you're going, and I think that's, I want to get to that point of feasibleness.
How about cost? Has anybody thought about what you would be willing to spend, or, you know, do we want to use Charlie analogy, just replace the locks and keys? Anybody want to put a number?
I think it depends what type of sign we have. I think it depends where the sign is being placed, because it's going to, well, the size is going to be a big determination. If we go wider and higher, I mean, there's a lot of variances to figure out really what is the dollar amount that we want to spend on a sign.
We will try to get you a framework of costs for a sign. Sign
That would be
sizes.
helpful.
Because you said what on this, John, approximately?
This one is, I think, $23,000.
And Dave, can you go back to the one that we would potentially be looking at the northeast corner of Joliet and Wolf Road? The, with like the digital display? You had it up there, yeah, like, and something like that is 40 or 50. So if we have an idea,
Right.
we've got 6,800 there, 30,000 there, 40, 50,000 there, showing us different options. I think we can have an intelligent discussion about it. Right now, we don't know anything.
And John, the one that we're talking about for Village Hall would be roughly in the same spot, a little further back,
Correct.
but roughly between the parking lot and the road, right?
We don't
Yeah.
have anything budgeted, do we?
Not this year.
And I believe that it's turned 90 degrees, Justin, is that what they're proposing? So as you're driving up and down the road, you can see it, where the way that sign was designed, you couldn't see it until you were on top of it.
Okay, so we'll come back with more information next month, right? I'm sorry, I kind of took over.
No, you're fine.
Okay, is that it, John?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Assistant Village Administrator?
Yeah, the only report I have is that this November we're going to have our leaf vacuuming program again. There will be 3 passes or 3 weeks. I'll give you the dates now, but I don't expect anyone to remember them really. We'll be putting this out on our website, social media, Simplicity, and it's also going to be included in the smoke signals. That's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. And so what we decided at the Public Works Committee was that the first leaf vacuuming pass would start October 31st, the week of October 31st, so the first week in November. Then you would skip a week. It'd be the 14th, the week of the 14th, and then skip another week, and we would start Monday the 28th in November and go through December 2nd, the Friday.
And when we leaf vacuum in, we want the residents to have their leaves out on that Monday morning, is that correct?
Yep, Monday morning, and we very strongly request please do not rake it into the street, but right next to the street. Raking it into the street can cause stormwater drainage issues, as well as potential safety or driving issues. So please, please, please rake it up to the street, but not in the street. And also, please do rake it close enough to the street so that it can be vacuumed. If it's too far back, you probably get skipped, and then you'll have to push it up.
And I'm sorry for my question, but a street like Blackhawk where there's the road and then a ditch.
Good question.
Where would the leaves go?
In the case in which you can't get them because of a ditch like that, then we ask that you put them on your driveway as much as you can. Not ideal, but it's the best that I think we can do.
Anything else? Thank you, Andy. Department heads reports. Police. Chief Kernick.
Just as a side note, before we get started with that, I was the first police officer hired with that Police and Fire Commission back in 1979, so they must have done a very good job. So, for the month of August, we had 608 case report numbers pulled. Of those, 80 were generated for calls to 911 system for whatever reason. Some were emergency calls, some were alarm calls. 437 of those calls were generated by the officers doing premise checks or assist citizen calls, or changing a tire for a motorist or something of that nature. We did have 3 driving while license suspended arrests, which along with that came 3 vehicle impounds with the administrative tow fees. So that is moving along pretty well. Side note, Burr Ridge had 3 cars stolen 2 nights ago. And then last night, there were reports of many car alarms going off in the Burr Ridge area. Fortunately, we didn't have anything on our side. We did have one of those stolen cars caught on our northbound camera down at Arrowhead Trail. The car was going through town, but it was unknown that it was stolen at that time. We didn't know. Now that we know it, because it was reported stolen. We did have a good news, bad news situation. 2 of our officers were able to Narcan a drug overdose person in the Walgreens parking lot. They were called there for an unconscious person in the car, and they had a break in the window, and they were able to administer 2 doses of Narcan, and they revived the person. So next month at the October meeting, we're going to award them the life-saving award that John is arranging to get the ribbons for them.
Chief, we do not celebrate our police officers enough, and I think this is a step in the right direction for what they do.
I agree with you 100%. I think we need to do it village-wide, actually, for anniversaries, different things that happen in the employees' lives. We do celebrate, the appreciation luncheons and things of that nature throughout the year, but I think we need to take it one step, another notch higher.
That's on me.
Yeah, there we go.
The village
not on me.
had mentioned it, but.
What else do I have here? Can't read my own writing. I'm good. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
You have a camera update on the...
Camera update status, same repeating. We're waiting for IDOT to give us the permits for Joliet Road, and we're still waiting for the Motorola Verkada Vigilant cameras to come in off the boats from China or wherever they're being made. So.
On that note, it's time we call out the big guns. In the next couple of weeks, a representative from Representative Durkin's office will be at Village Hall.
Even better.
We will talk to him then.
Is that Anthony?
Yes.
Quick question. Do you know approximately the area that the cars were stolen from?
No.
And all the alarms are
No. I don't even know where that's at.
Chief, can you repeat that since...
Burr Oak Glen. But where is Burr Oak Glen? On the north side of town? North of Plainfield? Okay.
But there's south of Burr Oak and it's between 79. Forest Hill on one side, 70.
Southern Burr.
Thank you. All right, anything else for Chief?
Yes, quick question. You might not be able to answer this, and I hate to put you on the spot. On those cars, had it been reported stolen before it went through, can you walk me through, would our officers that are sitting at Heritage Center have gotten a notification that, hey, this happened?
Yes.
Okay, so that's...
So the cell phones that we have, the alert goes out within seconds of the car, passing through the intersection. The 90% of the alerts that I'm getting are the stolen license plate that has been stolen, and it's not the stolen car coming through town. It's the person either living in Indian Head Park that reported it stolen, somebody from Burridge, Willow Springs, because they're regular. I mean, I can tell you when the car's coming through town on a regular basis. So we have not had any strange outside steals of bad guys coming through town with a stolen plate on the car.
Okay, so in that case, that would have alerted you. So what happened here was after the fact, then the system went through and said, yeah, hey, 6 hours ago or 3 hours ago it came through. Is that how you found out?
No, Burridge
after?
Called us. We talked with Burridge. We got the license plate numbers.
And then you manually went in there and looked for it? Okay.
No, we didn't look for it. The computer looked for it.
So that was my question. So once you enter in there that it's stolen, the computer will then go back and say, yes, it came through 60 minutes ago.
Yes.
And tell you that. Okay.
Correct.
Well, you put in the plate 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it says, here's an image.
So if it's reported stolen before it comes through, it'll alert you right away. If
Correct.
it's stolen and then you put it in, the system will say, yes, it went through at
In
one time.
hindsight, you find out that the car was indeed, they took this path to travel.
Okay.
How quickly does a computer find it?
Oh, as far as the original steal, like we did when we went back and looked at our records?
Well, yeah.
Oh, instantaneous. I mean,
Really?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Public comments.
I'll be quick. Lori Davis, 6482 Apache. Eileen started talking economic development. I'm just wondering what's going on with the triangle, and you were about to say something about Dunkin' Donuts. Anything on that? Any activity on the triangle? Okay. Has anyone checked with Dunkin' Donuts since they were interested in the property where the dome was?
We can't, we don't have any updated information. Anybody else? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Tom Davis, 6482 Apache. I just wanted to kind of revisit a request that had been made, I think it was at the last board meeting, for basically transparency regarding any grant requests that are being made. Could those be posted on the IHP transparency portal by any chance, so that everybody can see what's going on in regards to those in terms of grants that are either accepted or rejected or declined or that sort of thing? Just in the interest of transparency so we know what's going on. Thank you.
Question. Barb Prang, 6616 Osceola. What is the status of the building that's supposed to go up on Joliet Road?
They have abandoned their plans. You mean the one on Vine Street?
No, the one on Joliet Road. Yeah, is that Vine? I don't know.
So as you're going down Joliet Road, there's a little side street just past Wolfhead Inn.
Oh, that's fine.
That's fine. Yes.
I've only been there,
So
20 years.
if you went right out your back door.
So they're not building it?
They're not. The owners say the construction costs have gone up too much. So at least for now, it's on hold. But it seems unlikely that they're going to build.
Okay, so I have a question. There's several dead trees, just dead. I mean, there's nothing to them, and I look at these every day. And when we have storms, I really do get concerned that they're going to blow over and hit a car on Joliet Road and someone's going to get hurt. Is there a way to get these trees down?
Where
are the trees?
On that lot. On that lot on Vine and Joliet.
We'll follow up with the
Okay.
owner.
Thank you.
Other?
Amy Eckert, Cascade Drive. I have a quick question about the shed stuff and I think I followed your discussion fairly well, but you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, the majority of the board seems to not be in favor of new sheds. What about the new sheds that have already been erected, that have been approved by this board and are up and being used at properties right now? Take a walk through Blackhawk Park, the south side of the park. I don't know the name of the street there, next to the stockade fence.
Oh, on Howard, yeah, so
Those two houses both just put up brand new sheds.
I think
And they have been approved.
that was part of the Bartlett Homes group of properties
The corner
that came
house has a
through.
full basement and a two-car garage.
I understand, yeah, and it's a fairly new house
Yeah.
relative to the other ones, yes.
I just think the board's gonna have a lot of problems, I think. I
And-
wish that you wouldn't, but it's kind of too bad that a couple of them got in and now we're saying no. I happen to agree with the board that I don't think there should be new sheds going up.
And that's a good example. That shed does not have any of the landscaping.
Has none of the landscaping yet,
And Andy
no.
will work with them, and we
Yeah.
don't expect it to be put in.
Neither house, there's two
yeah.
houses and both of them, neither of
Yeah.
them have landscaping yet, so.
I would suggest Andy not work with them, but go out and give them a warning before they get a citation.
Well, they have some time, yeah, right. And then if they plant something, it may take a while to grow, so Andy has a schedule that he works with. Anybody else?
I do have one other question. What is the status for the trailer over at,
They have a September 30th deadline to remove it. We will be contacting them in a week to remind them.
September 30th? Isn't that longer than we originally?
No, it was always September 30th.
And they do not have a business license, so
Correct.
why are people going into the trailer?
I think you're talking the shipping container, the COVID?
Yes.
They do? I was not aware of that. They paid last year's, but they don't have a current one. We wouldn't shut down any other business. If they didn't have a business license, we would continue to have them get one. It was a slippery slope for us because we did allow it to go in during the height of the pandemic when vaccinations were not readily available, and we viewed it as a public health issue. So I gave them until, I had a conversation with them in mid-August. We gave them until September 30th to get rid of it. Otherwise, we will be citing them. So it was just a decision that I made to not force the issue so much, but give them time to get rid of it.
Okay, I don't see any other public comments. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Charlie, second.
Second, I'll second that.
Voice vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you, Charlie and Rita, for we are adjourned.